Jessica Peter is a Canadian writer of haunted fiction. Her work can be found in places like the No Sleep podcast, Apparition Literary, and Cosmic Horror Monthly. She is co-editing Howls from the Scene of the Crime, an anthology of crime horror, which will appear in May 2024. Jessica, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to dive right in. I am reading a semi-comedic Victorian-era horror from Collage Macabre. This is A Study in Umber. On a long table in the Castle Dunlevy dining room lay the mummy, hidden by a stiff brown bag. A faint beeswax scent emanated from the sack as Bertram Roberts, recently Lord Dunlevy, Bertie to his friends, waited for the 4 select men of his gathering to pour themselves sherry and Madeira and filter over. Bertie had dismissed the servants, so there were only 5 souls in the manor, small enough to rattle in the big space. Ahem. Now that we're all gathered, let us begin. Bertie moved to the toes of the mummy, looking down at the humanoid shape in the drab bag. He slipped the itchy brown fabric down, unveiling the top of a wrapped head on the other end. The other men murmured, but no one spoke outright. Bertie filled the space with a grunt as he shifted the fabric, his face flaming. Bertie's oldest childhood friend, Dr. Philip Hastings, moved forward, jowls twitching. Should I? I've got it! If Bertie could have slipped Philip's hand away, he would have. This was his lady mummy. But that wouldn't be the right approach. No, not at all. When invited, Philip had gone on at length about how he wanted to learn more about ancient anatomy. It made Bertie squirm. Dr. Hastings' passion for the deceased human form was quite distasteful indeed. Thankfully, Philip backed down and allowed Bertie his moment, and soon the still-wrapped mummy was unveiled. The beeswax stench was stronger now, slightly rancid. Underneath, there was something unfamiliar. Myrrh, the man that called himself Melchior said. There was a long pause as Bertie and the others stared at the mysterious man. With his ragged brown cassock, long gray beard, and wild eyes, he looked just like the mystic and healer he professed himself to be. Bertie had found him through a friend of a friend of a friend. Raphael Blakely's stomach roiled as he watched Bertie beaming at the grimy old magic man. He found the occultist most unpalatable. Pardon me, he finally said, peering at the mystic through the little round spectacles which sat above his carefully manicured mustachio. Myrrh, that's what we are smelling. I believe it means the person is of high stature. Melchior's accent shifted in a way that made Raphael narrow his eyes. Bertie was one of his dearest friends, but Raphael had come for the exclusivity. However, with the magician at his right, Philip of all people across the table, and an artist that seemed to have been pulled straight from the gutter at his left, he was having his doubts about whether it was his type of exclusivity. What comes next? Philip surveyed the mummy with hungry eyes. Raphael shot him a frown. I suppose we start unrolling, Jacob Harris, the artist of so-called renown, said. Everyone assented, and the group began the unwrapping together. Bertie unstuck the first piece, and it came off with a dry scratch that made Raphael flinch. They all lifted as Bertie spiraled. The body was surprisingly light, a piece of driftwood battered by the sea. The sense of beeswax and myrrh surged through the room, along with something that could only be described as the dust of something long dead. Then she was unveiled. Of course, she looked much less like the beautiful lady she once may have been. Instead, she was desiccated and browned, tattered after the weight of centuries. I can see the aristocratic curve of a skull, Jacob said. Raphael pursed his lips as he tried to see the beauty. There were some murmurs of agreement, but Raphael assumed they were lies. This didn't look like a lady. It looked like a corpse. The jewels, however, were a pleasant surprise. The mummy was bedecked with a large cuff necklace and a thick golden bangle on each arm that shone once Bertie polished them with a kerchief. Not bad, Raphael muttered. Not bad indeed, Bertie said. After several moments of the group staring at the body, all attention shifted back to Bertie, glowing in his role as host. And now, Melchior, he gestured at the cassock magician. He will mix mumia into a drink for our health. Bertie smiled at Melchior, showing too many teeth. Exceedingly healthful, Melchior said. Exceedingly, Bertie agreed. Mumia, Raphael said. Pardon me, but you expect us to ingest parts of this thing? The composure he'd worked for shattered like a fallen mirror. Mummy ingestion can bring great healing, Melchior intoned, accent shifting once again, looking Raphael up and down. And great vitality. Vitality, you say? Raphael's nausea passed quickly. In what way? Philip and Bertie both snickered, but Raphael held his head high and ignored them. Yes, yes, Melchior said, sizing him up. Shining hair, clear skin, and... He waved his arm lower. The like. Raphael nodded, perfectly gentlemanly, but inside his mind was filled with how this drink might be the secret. He drifted into daydreams of youthful vigor. Bertie watched as the artist and the mystic worked together to wrench off one arm. The stiff crack made something in Bertie's stomach churn, but the rest of the group didn't seem sickened, so he stood firm. They pulled off the bangle and handed it to him, crumbling the dried flowers in the armpit to dust as they did so. Something flip-flopped in Bertie's chest, but he soldiered on. He had to. Well, there we have it, he said bravely. It only now dawned on him that the mummy wasn't just a mummy. It was a dead body. It had been a woman once, a lady. But it was much too late to worry about those fine details. Melchior was already at the side table, grinding the hand in a large mortar and pestle printed with arcane symbols. Wonderful, Bertie choked out, as Melchior shambled over with 5 small glasses of brandy on a very shaky tray. Gentlemen, Melchior said, seeming quite English as he did so. This has the powder in it? Raphael squinted at his glass. Bertie echoed his discomfort, but he wasn't about to say anything, not at his own party. At least the brandies were translucent, having been well stirred. It does indeed, Melchior said indulgently. Bertie wondered again where exactly he was from. Then he picked up his glass, and the others followed suit. Bertie was the host, after all. To health and history, he said. Bertie downed his entire glass of brandy in one go, liquid burning his throat, a faint graininess, the only indication of something more. There were indeed only 5 living souls in Castle Dunlevy that evening, but there was a 6th soul. It's just that she was dead. Irette burned with a pillar of white rage, and then she began to stir. Yes. And you can get a free copy of this if you win my giveaway. I'm giving away an ebook of Collage Macabre.